So you're a great storyteller, but Doug is the guy to promote you, Dave Clark. So
Yeah, I don't promote well at all.
Yeah.
And that fits into our.
Yeah,
But Dave loves speaking now, just so that you know. So anybody out there wants to hire this man as a speaker. I just had from a friend of mine, Liston Boucher, who's a 5-time Olympian, over the phone tell me that Dave is by far one of the best speakers he's ever heard. But he doesn't understand that.
Yeah, I've heard him speak. I've been in the audience. He's an incredible speaker. But when it comes to getting Dave's story out and promoting it,
Not easy.
it's not easy, and it takes that, as I said at the top of the thing, that incredible person. Dave's a great storyteller. You're a great promoter, and I think that fits right in with what you were just saying.
Well, let's just say I'm not great as I want to be yet, but because most people don't know about his story. It's even
it's the best kept secret. I mean, people in Corning, New York didn't even know it.
and when some of
I'm
them
not a
still
promoter.
don't. And
I don't promote it.
But if YouTube would have been here in 1970, if the stars would have just been a little bit different.
Sure.
In 1971, when he got his first contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, and YouTube was available, everybody would have been having their cameras watching this guy, and the first time he strikes out somebody, it would have gone so viral. Everybody would know who Dave Clark is. And on the other hand,
drummer for the Dave Clark 5.
Yeah, the Dave Clark 5. There you go. The Dave Clark of the Dave Clark 5. But it makes us all glad all over when we think about this. So there we go.
Bits and pieces.
Right, there you go.
We could just go on and on and on.
I didn't even know who the Dave Clark 5 was, but I did. When I went back and researched them, heard and remembered some of those songs.
Age,
no, man, I'm way younger than you, thankfully. I wasn't even born when you were in that picture.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And there's a reason he always wears a hat, so he
And you're going to be wearing one soon.
I guess so, but I'm doing all right, although I'm getting that gray now. So, but
the story, you talk about, in your mind, you assess, okay, I want to be a Major League Baseball player, and I want to take it to the next level. Okay, my legs are shot. We were making the joke in the parking lot where they use a calendar to time you to first base.
Yeah.
But and you ran on your crutches.
Yeah.
And so you say, okay, I'm not going to be a shortstop. I'm not going to be an outfielder. Where can I fit in? And what can I do? And you make that leap. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a pitcher. And then you assess it and you come up with, by the way, you invented the 4-finger knuckleball. We want to make sure that everybody understands that. There's a knuckleball and there's a Dave Clark knuckleball. So, and then you throw your shoulder out and you've got to totally reinvent yourself again. And you take that same strong mindset. And what's that story?
Well, I blew my arm out in Sweden, 1981. Tried to rehab it several times with a New York Yankee doctor, Baltimore Oriole doctor. Had surgery by a renowned physician, Dr. James Andrews, who does all the big guys now. He was kind of a newbie then. That was in '83 maybe. And I was never able to pitch again. Never able to. I could throw, but I couldn't pitch. And so I started the Ocala baseball camp that your son Mike came to, as we were talking off camera earlier. And then I remember that camp ran February through April every year in Ocala, Florida. And then I came home in '83. And there was nothing to do all summer. And so I remember talking to my business partner, Sal Tombasco, and from Corning. We were out drifting on a boat in Seneca Lake, middle of July in '83, and I looked at him and I said, the hell are we doing here? I said, should be on a ball field somewhere. And so we both started talking about forming this barnstorming team. What are we going to call it? Dave Clark All-Stars, Sal Tombasco All-Stars. What? And I had played for the Indianapolis Colts when I was a pitcher in 1975 and '76 for a man named George Long. And we had kept in touch after I had played for him. every year with a Christmas card, usually twice a year, Christmas card, some other time. And it just so happened, let's talk about stars aligning, just so happened when Sal and I were talking about this concept of a team, I get a card from George and he says, I'm selling the team. And I looked at Sal and I go, selling the team? There's our, what do you want, George? And I called him up and he goes, yeah, I'm going to sell the team. And he says, I'm selling it to a group in Quad City, Iowa. And I said, but George, I said, hold on a minute. I said, if we can match their offer, would you sell it to us? I'd much rather sell it to a former team member than anybody else. I said, okay. I said, let me see if I can. He wanted 25 grand. So between me, Mark Engelhart, and Sal Tambasco, all Corningites, we purchased the club in 1983. And then it became, well, Dave, you can't pitch anymore. What do you do? I'll go back to when I was 8 years old. I can remember every sport I played, basketball, football, hockey, baseball, analyzing the sport at 8 years old and determining where my strengths lent success. Baseball, just as you said, I specifically remember being 8 and analyzing all these sports. Couldn't be a shortstop, couldn't be an outfielder, couldn't be a catcher, pitcher, first base. So that's what I played in Little League, with the exception of being put in the outfield a couple different times. But when I came back after the arm injury ended my pitching career and we purchased the Clowns, I started formulating my brain, going to come back as a first baseman. Not too many 5'2" first basemen on crutches. And so I had to, number one, I wouldn't put myself out there if I couldn't play at that level. So it was an experiment to start with. Can you do it? Can you do it at this level? Literally took 100 ground balls a day. I hadn't hit in 12 years. DH came in, so I hadn't hit. So I literally 5 buckets of balls every day in the batting cage. And so 1984 season came around and I played first base for the Indianapolis Clowns. I hit $150. 150. That sucks. And I can remember being at home plate and looking out the mound and thinking to myself, wow, it's a lot easier out there than it is in here. Because I hadn't hit in 10, 12 years. And, you're batting against guys that are literally throwing 90 miles an hour. And it's tough. Ted Williams once coined it, it's the toughest athletic thing you ever do.
I can believe that.
Hit a baseball coming from a pitcher throwing 90 miles an hour harder. And it's difficult. So I went home that winter and I said, if I can't do better than this, I'm done. And I literally dry swang in front of a mirror, 100, 150 swings a day. Tried to get, and one of the things that I had to do was, if there's such a term, overwork out. I ran 5 miles a day on those things. I'm pointing the crutches off the camera. I did sprints every day. I lifted weights every day. I rode the stationary bike every day, 4 hours a day. I took Sundays off, but I had to do that in order to stay ahead of my competition. So I came back in '85. I think I hit 256. It's in that book. I don't know what. I think I hit 256 or 251. I've always been a good glove man. Now, I'm not very tall, but if they got it around the bag at first base, I would get it, whether it was in the dirt or not. I would pick it up. So it became apparent to me in the second year that you're able to play at this level. And until 1988, when post-polio first hit me, I played first base for the Clowns.
That's where I first met you.
Okay.
You were playing in Corning.
You told me one of my former
girlfriends, yes. who I'm actually good friends with. We're good
Well,
friends.
you make sure you say hi.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure I say hi.
Okay.
She actually was with you, and I came up afterwards. I wanted to shake your hand. I wanted to meet you. Never met you before, but I'll always remember that night because you made some incredible catches at first base. That somebody that I'll just say, for lack of a word, able-bodied person would have probably stood up and took a bow. You just well, first of all, you're always in the dirt making the catches. You fell over, your crutches went flying one way, and the dust settled. And you get up, you pick up your crutches, you reposition yourself, and it's like, this is nothing. This is what I do. I play first base. Everybody else is, on their feet giving you, applause. And you're like, let's play ball. And I always remember that. And that's the part that you just took it in stride. I'm a ball player. That's what I do. And I think that was around whatever year you played. You came that with the Clowns.
It would have been mid-'80s.
Yeah. Somewhere on there. And I took our team there, our little league team, because we had practice that day, and they were crying because I was over practice. This is you're working us too hard. We're not going to be able to turn a double play. And I had read in the paper where you were going to be there that night. And another good friend of ours, Dave Stahlberg, he was helping me coach the team. So we gathered up the team, my son included, and took him out to see you guys play. And so the next time we practice, I'm like, no excuses, Dave Clark. No, I say no excuses, Dave Clark. I just remind them of that, and that was great because I got rid of a whole lot of whining and crying and complaining. And I've heard you give that talk. I think the last time I heard you tell the story was at Elmira hockey team.
Could be.
Wow, that's several years ago now.
Could be.
Whatever that was a while
Those
ago.
guys were listening. That was a fun day. Those guys were, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'll do whatever you say, sir.
Yeah, well, at first, they didn't know quite how to take
Yeah.
it. But
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so if this guy can get out and, bat 5-7 buckets of balls every day, I can take 100 shots every day. And then of course, the killer, and this is the next part, is that, okay, Dave Clark baseball, but you played hockey.
I did.
You played
I
hockey
did.
for Ithaca College.
And again, you go back to analyzing, what position am I going to play? Really, in hockey, there's only one, goalie. So, and I'll never forget telling my mom I wanted to try to play hockey, and she kind of, that was a time she kind of hesitated, and she looked at me and she goes, okay, but if you come back, first time you lose a tooth, that's it.
Yeah, you got that dynamite smile.
And ironically, that night I was a goalie, and I wore the old. We didn't have that cage mask back then. You had the one that stuck. It kind of looked like Jason, in the movie. It was a mask that stuck right to your skin, and I took a slap shot off the forehead, and the mask. And it split the mask and cut me. And I got a big golf ball sized welt. And I snuck into the house because I didn't want Mom to see that golf ball sized knot and go, all right, that's the end of your hockey career. And so that's a funny story.
Speaking of your mom,
Yep.
tell the story about the letter.
That's a touching story.
I know, but it's one of my favorites.
So in '88, as I mentioned earlier, Jim, post-polio hit. It actually hit the end of the '87 season, and I didn't know what it was. I knew I was losing strength, and I would go do my 4-hour workout, and I'd come home totally exhausted, and that never happened before. I'd come home invigorated, and shower, change, and go out and do whatever. And that didn't happen in '88 or '87, 88 off season. I'd come home and I'd flop on a bed and I was spent. So I went to Doug Fry helped me rehab my arm at St. Joe's Sports Medicine, Elmira. And he sent me through a bunch of tests, every test imaginable, and they all came back negative. And so at that point in time, Doug was my 3-week guy, and I was with the Baltimore Oriole doctor for a week every month, still trying to get my pitching arm back. And he looked at, I had separated my shoulder earlier that season, and the Oriole doctor kind of gasped when I took my shirt off, and I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You got a pit back here where it used to be bulging muscle." And I said, "Well, probably I can't exercise it properly because of the separation." He said, "I don't think so." He said, "You ever heard of post-polio?" "What the hell is that?" "Well, I don't know a lot about it, but he says, I know Johns Hopkins knows a lot about it, and would you be willing to go over there, get tested?" I said, "I guess so, if you think I need to." He says, "I think you need to." So I went over, long story short, they tested me and told me I had post-polio. So I was determined to play one more year, 88. I didn't want to stop and have already played my last game. So 88 got off to a really good start, and getting well over 300. And about halfway through the year, that post-polio kicked in hard, specifically in Nashville. We were playing in Nashville, and I couldn't see the ball. They had a guy throwing 92 mile an hour on the mound, and I couldn't see the ball. The post-polio had hit me so hard. It was an afternoon game, and we had played a night game before. So post-polio hit so hard that my eyesight was not right. And I actually pulled myself from the game after striking out without swinging the bat, because I was praying. You know, I was hearing they were strikes. I couldn't see it. So post-polio, I knew it was time. So after the 88 season, I retired. And I was sitting at my parents' house in November of 88, and I think I was watching football with Dad, and Mom came up. I'm sitting in a chair like you guys, and she just hands me didn't say much, just handed me an envelope. And I look at the envelope, and it's from Art Gaines, the scout who signed me. And I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And the address is to our neighbor. And so I'm trying to formulate what this is in my brain. Mom says, "Just read it." So I read through it, and it was a reply from a letter that she had written to Art, urging him to please let me down easy, that it had always been my dream to play professional baseball, and when the time came that Mr. Gaines was going to let me go, and please treat him like any other boy. And the reply was, Mrs. Clark, rest assured, I will treat Dave as any other kid, and he will make it or break it on his own merit, and I will let him down easy. So I'm reading through this, and she had it. Mom was smart enough, because I picked up the mail sometimes. So that's why she had the reply sent to the neighbor. So I never could see this. This letter was 17 years old. And when I looked up, I'm reading this, and as I looked up, I saw tears in my mom's eyes, and she said, I'll never forget, she said, how could I have ever doubted you?